global pandemic has come at a great human and economic cost. For many of us, we have watched this crisis unfold in front of our eyes. We have watched the suffering and devastation of communities that's been directly impacted by the indecisive, sometimes ineffective government policies. Liberty and livelihood were lost as a result of COVID lockdowns. Now, I went through this pandemic as a money manager, as introduced before, a professional share market investor. Now, at the cusp of regaining almost our full liberty, now I want to tell you today that our society and corporations are actually in a healthier state. Multinational corporations, governments are now taking a deeper and healthier view towards their contribution and impact into our community. Profitability is no longer the only consideration, and I think that is healthier. Now, standing here today, I want to explore two questions with you. First of which is, has sentiment changed as a result of COVID? Now, the pandemic, we saw a rapid shift in ethical and social consciousness. And for the very, very first time, we are actually seeing a united front across consumer, corporations, and governments. Boards and management no longer only just work for their shareholders, they're now taking a very holistic view. And they include now people of all stakeholders, people like customers, employees, suppliers, and of course, the broader community. I'm sure you have seen lots of examples during the COVID of those multinationals stepping up, helping out their community voluntarily. One example is LVMH, the famous luxury goods maker. They converted their famous perfume factory in France into hand sanitizer production lines. And then they donated all these hand sanitizers to the hospitals and local authorities. Google is another example. They freely shared all the information available, anything to do with COVID, statistics, maps, vaccination centers, places where you can find help. And locally, we have our local hero, Woolworths. They have prioritized their delivery service. They have dedicated shopping hours for their most vulnerable customer, the elderly and people with disability. Now, during the COVID, the pandemic, we've also seen plenty of executive pay cuts, dividend cuts, in order to mitigate the financial impact, particularly at the time when many employees were out of work. Now, it has become very clear that the corporations that have prioritized employees have done better and now are much quicker and better in response to the eventual reopening of the economy. One particular example includes the retail industry. So at the onset of the pandemic, many shops will have to close, and employees, many were let go. But for those companies that have kept their staff, they have not only traded through the pandemic with very, very strong online sales, they are now being rewarded by loyal customers returning to their shops. So, what's the answer to my question? Has sentiment changed as a result of COVID? The answer is yes. The sentiment has become more respectful, and that is healthier. Now, this does lead me to my next question, which is, will those sentiment change lead to a deeper structural shift? The answer is yes. Let me tell you why. The global pandemic has been a proof of concept that employee can pretty much work effectively from anywhere and everywhere. This is very different from the traditional belief that people generally are very unproductive, don't really do much work when they're working from home or sit by the pool. I certainly have found that during the pandemic, not only I was a full-time money manager, I have become a full-time teacher, homeschooling two of my kids. And I'm not so sure about their grades. It's certainly another story. My kids didn't quite like that joke. And look, with such a strong performance from employees through the pandemic, and of course the corporations invested lots of money into the technology platform, I think this trend or this hybrid working model from home and at work is going to be here to stay. Now, this is very good for our society. Why? Because there are many cohorts of people that generally get disadvantaged by the strict office working hours, the 9 to 5 office working hours. One example would be the women group. I think if we have the hybrid model from here on, we will have more women in our workforce, increased diversity. That's really good for our society. Now, aside from the workplace flexibility, multinationals have also increased their focus for employee wellness to include things like mental illness, which has been a big problem during the pandemic lockdowns. Now, in fact, one of the biggest area for investment or one of the hottest industry in the last 18 months has been employee wellness industry. Billions of dollars around the world has been invested into this space and expected to grow significantly for the foreseeable future. Corporate accountability is another area of substantial improvement. It's partly and largely due to a lot of corporations, consumer has become incredibly savvy because they spend a lot of time online, like myself and everyone else. So the corporations no longer just focus on the quality and the usual things you worry about your product. They have to worry about where it's made, how it's made, whether it's being made with sustainability factors in mind. Before COVID-19, multinational corporations use a strategy called just-in-time. Now, the just-in-time strategy is very simple. When a customer places an order, the corporations work out where's the cheapest place to get it made, good quality but cheapest place, and then get it shipped the fastest to the customer that placed the order. Now, as a result of just-in-time strategy over the past couple of decades, we have seen a lot of jobs being lost to offshore, mainly because the labor is cheaper and shipping cost is pretty low, pretty cheap. Now, of course, the global pandemic has caused a lot of border closures and the like, and we have seen these severe product shortages. We've seen product shortage literally ranging from cars to televisions. Actually, I've been told that maple syrup is going to be out by Christmas. So if you have little kids like mine, buy it now or never. So the product shortages clearly has forced those multinationals to really worry about and rethink what they can do. They have come up with a new strategy. It's called just in case. Look, with the just-in-case strategy, we have seen a lot of money being invested in local people, local community, local warehousing, local manufacturing sometimes. And I think this could mark the turning point in bringing back jobs. So, at the onset, I have spoke about that the global pandemic has come at a great human and economic cost. Now, this is true. However, this may have just been the circuit breaker that we needed. Multinationals, stakeholders, governments are now taking a healthier and deeper view towards their impact and contribution on our society, our community. They know now they're being critically assessed on grounds far greater than simple profitability. Now, future investment will be discerning, and then they will follow the areas that's focusing on the environmental, social, and governance. We've seen the first sign of this during pandemic, and some of those structural shifts are only set to accelerate. So in a way, our society and corporations are in a healthier state. And that is good for us all. Thank you, everyone.